Hello and welcome to our home here in Brittany in northwest France. My name is Jane. My husband Michael is behind the camera. We are debt and mortgage free, early retirees, British and living in France. And every Wednesday we invite you into our home for a cosy midweek money chat. Let's take a look at what we're going to have a chat about this week. So this week's midweek money chat is all about how to retire early, and we've got first-hand experience of that because that is exactly what we are doing. We made a conscious decision at one stage in our lives that we were going to do everything we could to not work until 67. We saw the retirement age going up and up in the UK. And I think we had that moment where we just went, we want to retire early. So retiring early basically is when you stop working for that monthly income and you start living off either a pension or savings or investments at any age before that. Mike and I had originally hoped to retire at about 57, and we brought that forward just because circumstances meant that we were able to, and we actually moved from the UK at 53 years old, but we obviously took our pensions at 55 years old. So today is all about that story, that journey, that experience of how we did that, and who knows, you might find that useful. It might be something that you could do in the future too. So here goes. Here is how we retired early. When it comes to money advice about retiring early, it might seem unattainable. It might seem unattainable because they're always talking about these big investment pots. They're always talking about having $1 million in an account somewhere. That just is not realistic to most people. We're never going to see that type of money in our lifestyle, not unless we won the lottery. So we think sometimes these type of lives of retiring early is completely unattainable. Now, Mike was what was in the UK is known as a local government officer. He worked in a government office. I was a teacher. We didn't have big incomes. We had very, very average jobs. Very average incomes too, may I add. So it absolutely is possible to retire early. Do not think that this is only something that people with big incomes and big investment pots can do. We all know, don't we, of that librarian who's had a very small income all of their lives and retired and went on cruises because they've been saving their money. And then we've known those people, haven't we, who've had good jobs and good incomes, but barely make it payday to payday because they just spend it all. And we know people who are still working later in life than they possibly wanted to because they just didn't make those plans of how they were going to retire. So please, please, please don't turn off at this stage and think to yourself, well, I don't have masses of money to invest and it's not for me. We didn't, but we did it. And we're going to share with you exactly how we did it. Now, the first thing and the most important thing that Mike and I did to make sure that we could retire early is we were always in our work-based pensions plan. So we just lost that money every single month. That money that we put into our pensions every single month wasn't taxed. So it didn't greatly affect our monthly take-home pay. Now, there are many pensions in the UK and they are different with different jobs and different employers. Some employers are extraordinarily generous. They aren't great with the pay, but their work conditions and their pensions are awesome. Some of them you can put in 7.5% of your pay at gross and you are not taxed on that. and your employers will match it. So if you were putting in, for example, let's take a random figure out of the air, £100 a month into your pension plan, that's exactly what your employer puts in on top of it. There isn't a savings plan in the world that will give you 100% benefit on a savings plan every single month. There just isn't. So be in the pension plan. Whatever it is, the work-based pension plan will be better than any savings. It will have less risk than any investment, and it's exactly what we did. The legislation in the UK now is that people can take their pension at 55. Usually there's a lump sum with it and there is a monthly amount, and you can balance that. Mike and I, for example, decided that I would take the minimum lump sum and the maximum pension, whereas Mike's pension, which was less, he decided he would take the maximum lump sum and the minimum pension, and it's just what worked for the pair of us. But we can't stress this enough. That's how the basis of how we could retire early. And we were paying a huge amount of money every single month. I mean, we were putting away somewhere in the region of £750 a month. And it would be so tempting, wouldn't it, to say, well, I would rather have the money. But if I live, if we work this out, if I live past 80, every penny I get after that is free money. I just couldn't have invested any more than that. Of course, and there's built into pensions, there's usually a widow or a widower's benefit. So your widow or widower will get a proportion of your pension. So I can't stress it enough. How did we get there? The first thing we did is we didn't miss the money. We didn't even equate it. We didn't even think of it as ours. It was the best long-term savings plan that we could have, that most people I know could have, is be in the pension plan, lose that money every single month, think of it as long-term savings, and that is the biggest part of what got us to where we are today. Now, the title of this section I've called Diversifying Your Income, and I need to tell you a little story. I do love these chats. Now, at the beginning of every video, I say to you that we are debt and mortgage free, and it's said just like that, isn't it? It just sounds so easy. It's not easy, I promise you, but we did it. It isn't easy. And I need to give you some sort of information about that. Now, we were employed, but that wasn't our only income. We were also self-employed. We freelanced. It's a great thing about the UK is the freelance economy. It's not good for some people, but if you can use it to your advantage, it is good. Let me give you more details. So I was a teacher, and right up until the end of 2018, I was an exam marker. That's a freelance job. I was a private tutor. That's a freelance work. I would charge by the hour, and then each and every year we would submit a tax return, a self-employed tax assessment of the money that we would earn on top of our jobs. Mike was an eBay reseller. He knows about vintage radios, he knows about vintage cameras. He would buy them in the auctions and he would sell them online. He would buy computers and then sell them online, and all of those little things on top of it. We had lots of little bits of income that we would add to that. That's how we got debt free. That's how we were able to pay off our mortgage. All of those things add to that. So you're thinking like, well, how does this help? I would actually go so far to say, I think it would be extraordinarily difficult to retire early if you've got debt or if you've got a mortgage. But if you are prepared to diversify your income, if you are prepared to use the freelance economy, and here's an example. There are people who are young, willing and able to do some extra work. It might be 10 hours on a Saturday delivering food. It might be 10 hours on a Saturday in a second job or doing something else. How many of us know people who are hairdressers, beauticians, who are builders, who are carpenters, who are gardeners, who cut grass, who go out and do extra work, who go out and do odd jobs, and they're all part of the freelance economy. As I said, it doesn't work for everybody, but if you can make it work for you and you could put in, let's say, 10 hours extra work a week, if it is your choice, as we did, it will soon get you to that goal of retiring early. So, as I say, we talk from experience. It is something we did. It is something that people do. It's a great thing to diversify your income. Oh, let's get to that next word of hacking. Hacking, it's a very trendy word at the moment, isn't it? There's two things that we did that we didn't realise until we'd done them, that they're a very trendy thing to do. Number one that we did was house hacking, and the second thing we did was car hacking, which is very different from car hijacking, isn't it? House hacking. Anyway, let's talk about house hacking. House hacking is where you make your house make money for you, and is exactly what we did for many years. When we had a slightly bigger house, we took in lodgers. We took in people who lived away but came to work. So we took in everybody from trainee teachers to trainee nurses. We put ourselves on every list we possibly could. Trainee vets at one stage, builders working away from home. They would turn up on a Monday night, stay through, and on a Friday morning they'd go away again. And it just brought down the cost of our house experience. And people do it. If you live in a 3-bedroom house and you're only sleeping in one of the bedrooms, hack the other 2 rooms. And there are many things that people have done, and we've done this. We stored someone's caravan on our driveway because we had a big enough driveway. It was a great way of earning a bit more money. We did it quite cheaply and reasonably. It was much cheaper for them than putting it in winter storage, but it brought us a bit of money. There are people who rent out their garage, rent out their driveway. There are people in Cornwall, and this is genius house hacking, to put their caravan on a caravan site, the caravan they tow behind their car. They found places that they could stay for £35 a night. And their house, they were renting it out for £150 a night. Genius, isn't it, the difference? So they were staying in their caravan, moving it from one site to another every 2 weeks and renting their house out. I think that is genius. And then there's the car hacking. One thing that we always did was lift share. So at one stage, when I was giving 2 people a lift to work, picking them up along the way, and they were giving me a little bit of money, that paid for my fuel for the car that week. So I would get to work for free, and they would get to work on a much cheaper cost and less inconvenience than taking a train or a bus, because I could pick them up from their doorway. Mike used to get to work because we only had one car, and he got to work by paying someone a little bit of money to get in the car, and it was half the price of using the bus. So we were saving money all the way around. So bringing down those massive costs meant for years and years and years, we kind of had minimal transport costs. And the last 5 years that we were working, Mike and I had a brilliant situation where we worked on the same street. So then we could go to work in one car together every single day, cutting our costs and picking someone up and giving them a lift. And it really did. So house hacking, make your house make some money for you. Car hacking, make your car make some money for you to bring down those overall costs. Exactly what we did got us to where we are today. Every single bit helped. My next section I'm going to call Money Mindfulness. And we know the opposite of it, don't we? Because we know those people, or we are those people, or we've been those people who get to the end of the month and there's more month than there is money. Well, when we kind of changed ourselves, we became mindful with our money. We lived off a written budget and we tracked our spending. There are many ways that people do this. They might use a cash envelope system, and in the early days, we took cash out, we took that to the supermarket, we just used cash. It worked for us. We no longer do that, we use a debit card, but we did do that in the past. We were very mindful about money. But tracking your spending, it's the biggest and most important thing that you can ever do to retire early. And it's planning where your money is going to go with a written budget every single month, planning where your savings are going to go with a proportion of that going into savings on top of your pension, if you can, every single month, and tracking your spending. We still, to this day, every receipt we get in the shop, we've got that. We're putting it safely in our purse or in our wallet. We get it home, we're taking it out straight away. We're writing it in our budget book. We're still doing that. It's one of the most important things that got us to where we are. It wasn't simply frugal living. You can penny pinch all you like, but if you don't have a plan for where your money's going to go and stick to that plan, even if you're careful, it can dribble and drip in all sorts of different directions. So, money and mindfulness go together. Plan where your money's going to go. Keep control of it every single day by checking where you're sending it, what you're doing with it, and track what you've done with it. Now, my final title is very, very easy to say, but not so easy to do. And it's stop buying stuff you don't need. Now, just imagine if you always cooked your meals at home, if you always dried your washing on the washing line, if you always lived shared, if you always house hacked. Just imagine that for a moment. If you did that for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, if you did that, you would bring forward your retirement year by year by year by year. And really, it does make a difference. And we know that, don't we? We know in the past we've spent too much money eating out. We know people who've done that. We know people who've spent too much money going on holiday, or they've got a bed and then they change it for a different style, or they buy a different sofa, or they completely change the decor of their house. The people who retire early don't do that. They get the sofa, they're sitting on that sofa 15 years later. They get the car and they drive it until the wheels fall off. They get a tent and they go on a camping holiday. They cook their meals at home. They don't buy what they don't need. They get their books from the library or the charity shop. They don't have cable TV. They don't have subscription services. And you might be thinking, like, that's too much for me. And it's not what I'm telling you to do. I'm just sharing with you what we did. And we stopped buying what we didn't need. We only bought what was important to us, what had meaning to us. And that's one of the reasons we are where we are now. And as I say at the beginning, we're debt and mortgage free, we're early retirees. And it's easy to say, it's not easy to do. But if you want to retire early, you do have to make that decision to live like no one else, so you can live like no one else. Thank you. We know that we're different. We know that we made different choices to many people, and we absolutely accept that the choices that we made to get where we are today are not for everybody. We know that many people don't want to retire in the way we do. We know many people don't want to live a thrifty and frugal life, and we get that. We absolutely understand that. We do want to add to people that all the choices that we made to be where we are today, we enjoyed them. We were happy to make those choices. At no stage did we feel like we were suffering or losing out. And we had a great time when we're doing it. We are exactly the type of people who can have fun for free, who don't need to have paid entertainment. And we really enjoyed the choices that we made. So I just wanted to add that at the end there. Now it just leaves me to say, if you have enjoyed this video, if it was useful for you, make sure that you give it a like. If you're interested in thrifty and frugal living, go on, hit the subscribe button, because we make videos every week and I'm sure you would enjoy more like this. Just leaves me to say thank you to absolutely everybody for watching. Now I know this video may have left you with questions that you want to ask us. If there's any questions that you want to ask us about early retirement, thrifty living, debt repayment, anything like that, please leave a question below. We're happy to help if we can. Just leaves me to say thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye for now.